When you kiss your love, you kiss the world. You kiss everything. Subatomic particles start to tingle. Space and time mingle when you fall in love. Those are some of the lyrics to a song called When You Fall in Love by Lon Milo DuQuette, and it's one of the most wonderfully Kabbalistic songs I've ever heard. We've talked a lot about the Qabalah here on M3. I chatted with Deborah Lipp about polarity on the Qabalah, with Jack Chanik about Kabbalistic magic and tarot correspondences, and with Christopher Penzak about how the Tree of Life is a container for information. And all of that was amazing. But today, we're going to talk about a different type of Qabalah, the Chicken Qabalah of Rabbi Lamed Ben Clifford. And to help understand this mystery, I asked my friend Sarah to send me video of her chickens. I think, perhaps I'm being too literal. Oh well, I guess we'll just have to talk to the guy who wrote it. Operator, connect me to Rabbi Ben Clifford.
We're sorry, your call cannot be completed as dialed.
Damn it, I'm probably being too literal again. Operator, connect me to Lon Milo DuQuette. Welcome to Music, Myth, and Magic. I'm Eric Arcadian, and today I'm speaking to Lon Milo DuQuette, an internationally recognized author and teacher, often hailed as one of the most entertaining writers in the occult world. And to top it off, he's a musician too. Lon, thank you so much for being on the show with me today.
Thanks, Eric, for inviting me.
It's a pleasure to have you. I've got to say, I recently read your autobiography, My Life with the Spirits, which was hilarious, by the way. But just for everyone else, could you give like a short synopsis of kind of how you got into the occult world to begin with?
LSD. Is that short enough for you?
Maybe a little more expanded than that.
Oh, okay. Well, I've always been an agnostic atheist, even as a child, and not because I wasn't involved in church work and things like that. My folks made me, sing in the church choir and fold the church bulletins, and I was the ritualistic little kid that came with the candles to light the candles at the beginning of the service and snuff the candles out. And I've been used to strutting around in robes. And I really like the church. The church building. And I got to be alone in the church almost all day Saturday, because I went in to fold the bulletins and do chores like an altar boy would kind of do. It wasn't a Catholic altar boy. It was a Methodist church, but it was 100-year-old church. And I liked the idea. I like the egregore feelings. I liked the spiritual feeling and everything else. I just didn't believe in God. And I didn't believe in, the God as it was presented to me. Okay. So I've always been like that. I couldn't believe grown-ups believe this stuff, and I was in high school. I graduated from high school in 1966 as the Vietnam War was escalating, and I was lucky enough to be, I guess you'd say, radicalized about international politics and things like that. So naturally, I became militantly opposed to the war in Vietnam, and even at that early age, became involved in the social protest movement and things like that. The second I graduated from high school, I moved out to California. But just before I moved back to California, because I was born here, I'd read about the work of Dr. Alpert and Timothy Leary. And there were like headlines in Time magazine and Look magazine and things like that. It's the God pill, and talking about LSD. And even in Nebraska high school, I was reading about this wild things that made people see God. And I said, boy, when I get out to California, the first thing I'm going to do is take some of that LSD. And so when I moved out to California, I was performing. I was a musician and performer. I was performing at a little folk club in Belmont Shore, California. And I went to the restroom, and a kid, surfer type kid, came up and said, "Would you like to buy some LSD?" And I sure would, you know. And well, to make a long story short, I dropped that unknown early whatever kind of acid it was, came in a capsule in those days. And that night just totally blew my mind. And I didn't see God on LSD, but I saw that my mind was so much bigger and more wonderful than I had ever dreamed possible. And it was an easy transition from actually seeing that big picture, and it truly was a big picture, and Eastern mysticism and the literature of Eastern mysticism. It was an easy transition, especially in those days, 1966, 1967. And so I got very interested in yoga and Hindu mysticism and Buddhism, Zen Buddhism, and became familiar with the works and the personality and the programs of Alan Watts. And it was just sort of a golden age of post-adolescent awakening. And after a few years, it became obvious that to be a first-class yogi and to be a first-class Eastern mystic took a lot of freaking work. And it seemed like I was hardwired for something else. And so I tried to look at sort of a Western version of Eastern mysticism. And I get more or less bumped into the Kabbalah and the Kabbalah and the Western Hermetic traditions. And then when I sort of got a good solid, when I got my teeth into that, it wasn't going to be long before I was going to bite into Aleister Crowley too, because he was, once you get over the terror of his reputation and everything, he was a wonderful, wonderful source and example of self-transformational powers, I guess, of ceremonial magic. So was that in a nutshell enough?
Sounds like a nutshell. Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned not seeing God on LSD, but kind of having your mind expanded, and that expansion of the mind is kind of a recurring theme in your work, right? You have this
Right.
saying that it's all in your head, but you just have no idea how big your head is. And I'm kind of curious. Two things. How do you actually see the idea of God or the gods? Do you see them as, like personal entities, or is that indeed all in our heads? And where did that idea kind of come from?
Oh, the idea came from well, first of all, I acknowledge a singularity of existence. Okay, and you can call that God because beyond that singularity, the only thing that's beyond that is the Buddhist-y nothing, out of which must focus itself to become the singularity. So you can call that God, uh, but the totality of that singularity is such that every component part of that is a total reflection of that part, like the every shard of a broken holographic thing contains contains not only the image of it, but literally it is it, and that's the magic of the transcendental smoothness of the singularity, that the many are the one. Okay, and so everything that we perceive, we process in our own head. So right away, it's all in your head. When you're just talking practical purposes, what you perceive is in your head, what you believe is in your head, what you imagine, what you project, what you process. It's all in your head. So you can look at it that way. But when I looked in the mirror on that first night I took acid and looked into my eye, I was looking into the eye of the singularity, and not that it was anything apart from me at all. Because the singularity is the singularity. There ain't no two. There ain't no many. Okay, it's all the singularity, and the magical, or the hermetic, I guess, way of looking at things, the Kabbalistic way of looking at things, are as your consciousness expands to accommodate a more accurate picture of this singularity, you wake up a little bit more, until the final wake up is that you've dreamt this thing all yourself. I often say, sooner or later, every one of us are going to wake up to the fact that we've been each other all along. And the Qabalah is not a way or a technique to actually do that. The Qabalah is a way to give yourself the language to explain to yourself what's happening as it's happening. The Qabalah provides you the vocabulary and the language to wrap your meat brain around it until you get to the point of where, in order to get any further, you're going to have to even leave that meat brain behind as far as what your self-identity is. Did that make any sense at all?
It makes total sense to me. So that answers a little bit about the idea of God. How does that concept apply towards spirits that you might conjure, angels and demons? Are those just in our brain? Is that brain hacking, or do you actually see those as external entities?
Well, first of all, I don't see anything as external. Okay. So you are totally free to mold the external expressions and vivify them any way you want. And the working with spirits and demons are in a sense working with the raw material of the singularity in such a way as to more easily deal with things that don't have a form and don't have a character. Just from a psychological point of view, your personal, emotional, or psychological problems. Okay, look at it this way. As we're thinking of ourselves as the many, okay, I'm somebody and you're somebody. Okay, it's going to take quite a bit before you and I realize that we're just talking to ourselves. Okay, right now it's very convenient for me to talk to you and see you as Eric sitting there on my computer screen. But I'm really talking to myself, and what you think is me talking to you is really yourself too. Okay. But our brains aren't wide enough. Our meat brains aren't wide enough to see that yet. So we kind of set up this, for all intent and purposes, your image is a little demon, is a little, okay, because you're not this flat thing. You're over there in 3 dimensions. Okay. But I see you as this thing right here. You and me, as long as we're identifying ourselves as two of the many instead of the singularity itself, we exist on this level, obviously, because there is something that we must do, or that we must be, or that we must accomplish, that only we can do. Otherwise, we wouldn't even be a many. Okay, we're all functioning within the singularity, because at this level, the singularity needs us to be single. Okay. I'm not, I just had lunch, so I'm not thinking, completely smoothly here. So a demon would be, well, I got a problem here, okay, emotionally, or just in my life, I've got a problem. I use the example of, I've got a problem. The girl next door isn't in love with me. I use this example a lot. And I'd like to do magic to get a demon to make that girl fall in love with me. And the medieval magicians, to them, it was no problem believing in the objective reality of demons. And so their magic at least partially worked because they just plugged into the dynamics of that. But we're at it sort of a disadvantage because we think of things as psychological and demons, that's movie stuff. But the girl next door is not in love with you for a reason. Okay. And that is, you're presently not the kind of person she falls in love with. Because I always say, the only thing you can change with magic is yourself. So the reason she's not in love, you can't get a demon to work on the girl. She's her own magician. Can't do it. Okay, different universe over there with her. Your only chance of getting her to fall in love with you is if you change yourself into the type of person that she falls in love with. So in the technology of Goetic magic, you purposefully, on purpose, intentionally whip up a spirit that will give you an adventure that turns you into the type of person that she falls in love with. If it's truly your will, okay, that this happens. If it's truly one of those things that you can do that only you can do in the universe, and it coincides with her view of the same, there's a chance you can do magic to make her fall in love with you. But currently, she thinks you're a freaking creep, okay? And your adventure is going to have to turn you into the type of person where it doesn't seem like you're a creep to her. And those adventures can be painful, can be frightening. Like Indiana Jones is a different character, is a deeper, richer, more textured character at the end of the movie than he is at the beginning. And what makes him that new textured, deeper personality at the end of the movie is that he gets beat up. He gets chased by Nazis. He drowns, and then skeletons hug him, and so when people do Goetic magic or Solomonic magic, they said, well, I whipped up a demon and it was so scary. Not only that, I had the worst luck in the world. I lost a piano fell on me. Okay. Crushed both of my legs, and I was in a wheelchair, and I was wheeling my wheelchair into the house, and the girl next door sees me and says, "Oh, that poor guy! Oh, I want to go mother him." And it just so happens that the kind of guy the girl can fall in love with is a guy with two smashed legs. That's a fanciful story, but you sort of get what I'm talking about. You've only got yourself to work with. And it can, the mechanics of it, the drama of it is easy to personify by calling this a demon, calling that an angel, working with angels with a hierarchy of angels above them that you need to address, recognize, placate. etc. So it's a technology. It's a spiritual technology, and it almost doesn't do any good at the outset to tell somebody, "Hey, and it's all in your head too." You know, it's sort of a spoiler alert. Okay, and you can grasp it intellectually, at first, but it really takes uh, a few magical adventures to either succeed or blow up in your face before you see, oh God, I see exactly how that happens, and I can see exactly why um, the medieval magicians uh, describe what goes on in these classic, almost Hollywood demonic scenarios. Did that make any sense?
It makes total sense. I love it. It's very reminiscent of how you explain things in the Chicken Qabalah. And I think, honestly, I've been waiting to ask you that exact question ever since I read the book. There's like a sort of like a frequently asked questions section towards the back of the book where it asks like, are demons real? Are demons just inside my head? And both answers are yes. So, yeah. So I'm glad to hear it straight from you talking to you. And so, speaking of, the Chicken Qabalah, that's one of your books, and you have written, I think, like 20 thereabouts at this point. What's your writing process like?
Oh, I'm the laziest person in the world. When we were first chartered a lodge of OTO back in 1978, I presumed it was my lodge master's duty to have a weekly magic class. And the magic class, my challenge was to stay at least 1 week ahead of the class as far as my mastery of the subject that I was dealing with. And over that period of time, I found sort of a groove on what works and what doesn't work on trying to help other people get a grasp of what it's about. And it's not that that I teach the class. I just, because the class forms a dynamic of its own, and it's like a learning experience for us all. But after a while, I started to simplify these things because it's easy to get lost and enamored and enchanted by the minutia of Kabbalistic magical work. It's beautiful, but it's boring as mathematics when you try to describe it. And the people that come to the magic class were not only OTO members, but we just opened the house up to whoever could behave themselves for two hours. And so everything I talked about, I had to do two things at the same time. One, I had to approach everything like the person in class is the very newest of newbies that asks those profoundly simple, childlike, profound questions. It's almost like, why is the sky blue? I had to walk this sort of tightrope of how do I make sure that they grasp that fundamental big picture, and at the same time, somebody that knows as much or more than I do about this is also stimulated and is also challenged in their thinking, and had to do it at the same time, same 2 hour period. And I realized that the adept student really appreciated the fundamental reminder of what's going on. And I noticed that the newbie really appreciated a bigger, more profound aspect or facet of it. And when it came time to me actually wanting to sit down and write a book about it, I tried to do the same thing. Chicken Qabalah is probably the most outrageous of examples of this, because I found that both of the characters, both the newbies and the adept student, could receive it fastest if it was said lightly and sometimes in the middle of a corny joke as illustrative of it. Like I give the example of the four Kabbalistic worlds by dreaming up a phony documentary. Let's learn Chicken Qabalah, and talking about the Ruach. There's somebody in a morgue with their head in a tray. Well, the Ruach is your brain, and so that's kind of how I do the books. Now, some of the books are like textbooks, like the Magick of Aleister Crowley, and that's just kind of a serious, straightforward thing. This is my understanding of these rituals of Crowley and his application of the principles of Thelema to modern magic, and the understanding Aleister Crowley's Thoth Tarot. It's another one that's sort of I got to be a little scholarly here, because this is a wonderful, serious, and important subject. But when I'm talking about my own application to things, I like to tell stories. That's my life of the spirit. It doesn't seem like it's a magic book, but it is a magic book. Okay, it shows how magic is part of a human's life, and give my examples. Low magic is another one that focuses on the stories, and then Chicken Qabalah, my newest magic book that comes out in May, is sort of a hands-on, kind of funny, and at the same time hands-on application of these very basic Kabbalistic principles, instead of just reading the Sefer Yetzirah, okay, the classic little Kabbalah textbook that everything is based on, that the creation of existence out of the Hebrew letters, how that applies to tarot cards, and how meditations and exercises that you can do yourself, at the same time you're actually painting your own tarot cards. Okay. In a sense, you're tricking yourself into learning this stuff. Oh, it's just like a little coloring book. Oh, okay. That coloring book is, you're literally, by the time you're through coloring your card and adding whatever doodads you want to add to it yourself, you already have a profound understanding of, say, Aleph, the Fool, and what it means in existence, the creation of up and down and all of that stuff. And I try to do it in such a way as you just sort of, you don't know what you're getting into until you're already into it and enjoying the trip.
So I've gone through a tarot coloring book before. I think it's like an excellent exercise to learning the tarot. Exactly, how does your upcoming book work like that? Are you actually designing the cards yourself?
You can, but most people are lazy enough to where they want a little head start. So, okay, I'll show you something. Okay. This is from the Tarot of Ceremonial Magic, the Constance and I's deck. Okay, that's the Four of Discs. It's a very simple design. Okay, the colors are very important, and all the collateral material there, the dates and the zodiacal things, and the Goetic spirits and the spirits of the Shemhamferish, and the 10-degree period that it represents. Okay, all of that you could just read right off of a chart. As a matter of fact, for years, magicians just read off of a chart what that decan is. I ran across, we designed this deck probably 1989 or something. Okay. I did the line drawings. Okay. Just the black and white line drawing things, made the form. Constance painted them just according to the very strict Kabbalistic color scales. Just recently, I ran across my original line drawing. So no colors whatsoever, but all of those things is kind of blurred up there. It's much clearer. Everything, not a spot of color on it. And as you can see, there's plenty of room for other appropriate symbols if they're meaningful to you. I ran across the blanks, the whole deck. What are we looking at? 40 some years old. Okay. The hand painted ones are still in Stuart Kaplan's collection because they were the first publishers of the deck. But I found and I got an idea. This would be the perfect color your own deck. If it was in a book, they would be big enough to color them in right in the book. Or even better, before you color them, take it down to Office Depot or Kinko's Copy and have them printed out on cardstock and cut them out, make your own tarot deck. And so, but they're like 40 years old, and they weren't the cleanest thing. They were just on cheap old note cards, stock. So I sent them to a friend in Canada that cleaned them up immaculately clean. So all of the Enochian. Let's see if I can find something. Let's see here. Anyway, what we're able to do is provide enough of a blank card complete with all of the color scale information, even the musical note that goes with it, because every one of these Hebrew letters has a sound scale that goes with it too. And applied during the time period that you're working on the card, applied to meditations, projections, exercises that incorporate all of this stuff. And in a sense, as you're outwardly creating your own card, you're inwardly installing it in yourself. And all of the exercises and rituals and meditations in the book are designed not only for you get up in your living room and do them, or you can completely internalize them, or both. But at the end of it, you'll literally, it's like squirting WD-40 into the rusted reflection of the singularity, okay, in your own soul. Uh, uh, or it's just a way to kill about a year at a time.
There's so much information that that's on those cards. It's pretty amazing. But what really caught my attention is you mentioned the notes. Can you explain a little bit about how the sound scale works?
Let's see if I've got the thing here. Everything. If you imagine the pure light of the singularity, or number one, being broken up into a prism as it turns into the many, and it turns into the seven primary things, and then from that on the secondary colors, and then the mixed up and polluted colors lower, just one spectrum going into a lower one going, and those are vibratory. Those are vibrations of light. And the Kabbalistic tree of life, let's see if I got one handy enough to. And the Kabbalistic tree of life there represents that descent from the singularity up at the top there, all the way down to the literally the divine mud pit of the physical universe. And for each of those, there's a descent of color. And I didn't color the Sephiroth or the circles there, but the main color of the cards themselves of the path represent that spectrum breakdown of colors. Okay. And as we move through the scales, there would be like in wands, that would be like the blue of the Queen's scale, and then the three would be okay. Now, if you look at the colors as they descend down the tree of life, oh God, I hope I didn't. Oh, I just mixed up my two decks. I'll take care of that later. The same thing holds true with the sound scale. And we've only got so many notes in an octave to work with. So some of the traditional notes assigned to the Hebrew letters double up. Okay, but they still are representative of the card on the audio level. So I used to go to the BOTA, Builders of the Adytum. They have a tarot Kabbalistic meeting, and they chant these vowel sounds assigned to the Hebrew letters, and they assign them. They don't assign them; they're the traditional ancient assignments. But when they say Yod Hey Vav Hey, it's Yod Hey Vav Hey, and it sort of makes you go, ah, they turn around, Adonai. Like, my wife is laughing in the other room. But anyway, so there's notes established to that. Not only that, but there's also tastes and smells and animals and jewels and other attributes. And the like in the Son of Chicken Qabalah. Have you read the Son of Chicken Qabalah?
I haven't gotten to that one yet. No.
Oh, please do, because that is a 3-degree initiation ceremony, or initiation ceremonies that program you to those same basic dynamics from the Sefer Yetzirah. So in some of those exercises, while you're working on the various Hebrew letters in their flashing colors, I even suggest that while you're working on it, because a little art project takes many hours, and while you're working on each specific one, let's say you're working on Aleph. Okay. Now, when I was a kid, I loved juicy fruit gum.
Me too.
I love juicy fruit gum. And the package of juicy fruit gum was yellow. Okay. Now, I make a suggestion because the more sensory things you can attach to an idea, the better. So if you get yourself a couple of packs of juicy fruit gum, and while you're working on your Fool card and talking about Aleph and looking at Aleph and with its flashing color of yellow and sort of mauve, while you're chewing juicy fruit gum, mindlessly chewing your juicy fruit gum, every time for the rest of your life as you're chewing the juicy fruit gum, you're bringing all of that Fool stuff back, all of that Aleph stuff back, all of that consciousness that Aleph is the line that creates above and below. Okay. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I've read quite a bit about developing all of the astral senses, including astral taste, right? And I haven't ever heard a whole lot of practical application for that specific sense. But what you just mentioned is definitely a very interesting way to look at it, even just for information recall and the association. on that level. So that's your quite a bit about your tarot book that's coming out, which is really cool sounding. And then recently you had another release about Jesus, right?
Yes. Where is Jesus? Wise men still seek him. Where I got one around here someplace, I think. Well, I can't find him at the moment. Let's see.
There he is.
There it is. Okay, and it's from the good folks at Llewellyn. Okay. It's kind of hard to I've got other books with Llewellyn, got a lot of books with Weiser, but they're magic books and textbooks and stuff. So it was kind of hard to say, hey, I've got this novel. It's about Jesus. Yeah, okay, yeah, I don't know. And a good friend of mine, an earlier version of the tale, sort of privately published it in a hardbound 15 years ago, maybe closer to 20 now. But it wasn't really done by a legitimate or a publisher. And I had more goodies that I wanted to do. It's okay. I was in the shower and I had been reading something about Jesus's first miracle, according to the Gospels here, the historical, who knows. But according to the Gospels, his first miracle was turning the water into wine at Cana. Now, even in the Gospels, when you read it, nobody heard of this guy. Okay, he was a nobody according to the Bible story. He wasn't famous. He was maybe a teacher, had a few disciples, but he wasn't a big thing yet. Okay, he didn't have his equivalent of Swifties. Okay, and but after the miracle at Cana, at the wedding at Cana, where he turned water into wine, then it said, after that, everybody believed on him. And then anything he did from that point on, people expected a miracle out of it. Okay. That's when all of the healings began. That's when all of the other stories began of all the wonders that he did. But he wasn't doing any of those wonders until everybody started believing in him after that. And so I was in the shower, and which is sort of like my phone booth to God. And all of a sudden it struck me exactly what happened and how the water seemingly got turned into wine. But it all depended upon what we actually know about the objective character, or one of the objective characters that the mythological character of Jesus was built on. And one of them is the guy who was actually the hereditary, just like King Charles in England is the hereditary king of England. Okay. There was a hereditary king of the Jews. And he was the king of the Jews because of the sort of like the hybrid marriage between two other Jewish royalties, if you will, on that level. Mary the Benjamite and Joseph, the of the tribe of Judah. And they weren't poor. Joseph was rich. Both of the families was rich. Mary's family, the Benjamites, were allotted the entire real estate that Jerusalem was built on. Okay. That's another thing. There was a hybrid thing going on, and there was the Roman occupation and a puppet king, and the puppet king was worried that the actual King Charles was going to say, "Hey, I really am king because my mom and dad, you know." So there was a political thing that was going on at that time. And how did Jesus turn the water into wine? And before I got out of the shower, I knew exactly how that happened. And so I wrote that story down and read it to Monday night magic class. And they said, "Fuck yes, that's exactly what happened." It's plain. They almost say it right there in the Bible. And but in order to tell that story, I had to tell the backstory of the families and the richness and the owning Jerusalem and the fact that he may have been a carpenter, but he was more like a giant construction company owner, a developer. Okay. And he had another guy, a real live uncle. There's an uncle of Jesus that's named Clopas, who was also Joseph's half brother and filthy rich too. Anyway, it's a fun backstory. And the more I had to tell that backstory, the more interesting the story became. And then it was too short to be any kind of a novel, even a novelette, but it was too long for a short story. So I started to think, well, what's the walk on water about? Okay, what's that about? The loaves and fishes. What's that about? And what's with all of these healings and stuff? Was he really a doctor too? And then they get into trouble, lead to the crucifixion and stuff. And obviously that would be the spoiler alert to it. And so over the years, I expanded it. And Llewellyn said, "Okay, we'll take a chance on it." So it's the accidental Christ, or an accidental Christ, the story of Jesus as told by his uncle. So.
Well, that sounds like a fun read. So I'll have to dig into that one too. And by the way, anybody who is watching this later on, if you're looking for any of these books that we've talked about, I'm going to post all the links in the video description below. So all you have to do is click and you'll be able to find it. Now, Lon, I don't want to keep you for like your entire day, but I do have to ask you this question because it's been burning on my mind. And your last book, obviously talks about Jesus. It's got to talk about some stuff from the Bible. The Chicken Qabalah, you pull quotes from the Bible. A lot of your teachings seem to be based off of biblical information. So how do you actually see the Bible? Is this history? Is it mythology? Is it encoded information? I mean, how do you see it?
Biblical history is not good history, number one. Okay. It can't be depended upon to be history. It's written by interests that would like to see history painted in a certain way to advance their interests, whether that be Judaism or Islam or Christianity. So it's lousy history. There may be things that it's history as written for people that really didn't have any kind of clue as to objective empirical history whatsoever. Okay, but who would be willing to believe it enough to kill people over? Okay, to make their point. That being said, the stories and traditions from which the stories and traditions of the Bible are largely taken from were taken from existing, I guess you should say, spiritual literature of other cultures. Everybody's got a Noah's Ark story. Everybody's got their creation story. Everybody's got an Adam and Eve. Everybody, okay. So in a sense, it's interesting from even an academic point of view to see the parallels. I can easily see Horus, the son of Osiris, is Jesus, the son of this, and it's easy to see it. That's one of the big advantages or strong points or assets to Freemasonry. Freemasonry makes you think about Bible stories a lot, and at the same time, they're not Bible stories. Okay, and in a way, Bible stories are like that too. They're not history, but they're other people's Bible stories. Okay, and that has a certain amount of reflection of how people are hardwired to contemplate, meditate upon, or theorize the nature of creation, the nature of reality, the reason for living. So, no, the Bible I'm happy to poke fun at in the same way as a late night comedian on. But the second part of your question was, is it written as a coded message? And I guess it depends on who the code breaker is and who was the intended person that the code was written for. And from a very scholarly, I guess, because, hey, I only went to college to score acid, so don't think I'm a big scholar here. But from a scholarly point of view, certain books that have wound up in the Judeo-Christian Bible were obviously written as codes. And specifically the 5 books of Moses. And in the New Testament, John, and the book of the Revelation. Okay, that it's obvious that when looking at the old or the 5 books of Moses, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, it's just full of codes all over the place. And that could be the result, just the natural result of the scribes, commentators that kind of enshrined and crystallized those stories and their understanding of just the basic mathematical realities that govern a three-dimensional reality. Because numbers are just so perfect, and I could easily see some, Hebrew scribe with so much time on his hands that he said, well, I can tell this story in such a way as it actually is describing how everything came out of nothing. Okay, and mathematicians or numbers people can do that, and not only that that everything that exists, in a sense, is part of this expanding and contracting fractalness of repeating patterns. Okay, and that's a numerological thing too. So yes, it is a coded message thing. Okay, but it's not a coded message thing to say, yes, and it's referring to, oh, that's the address of Trump Tower, or that spells out Mussolini, or something like that is a stretch. But everything, as Rabbi Ben Clifford said, everything in heaven and earth is the reflection of everything in heaven and earth. And everything contains the pattern of everything in heaven and earth. And so if you look hard enough at anything, you'll eventually see everything. And the idea of a book of literature being in and of itself holy is not a big stretch. The phone book is holy, but the phone book was not written by full-time holy guys for the benefit of other full-time holy guys. And probably the worst crime the Bible has committed is that it has been encouraged to be taken as a narrative, literal piece of literature, and not a huge coded thing that you have to literally have a spiritual eye to see what's going on. I don't want to put it like the worst thing that ever happened to the Bible is that it became available to everybody, because it was not written for everybody. It was written for full-time holy guys, and who at least are making the effort to look at it and try to see absolutely everything in its pages.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I like the way you explained that. Glad to get that answer from you too. I've got probably tons more questions I could ask you, but maybe we'll just have to save those for a later interview in the future, because I'm going to do two things. In just a second, I'm going to ask you the signature question. But before that, I kind of want to open it up and I want to hear from you as to where you might be in the future, how people can find you, anything cool you have coming up that we can tell people about.
Well, I know lots of people hate Facebook, but Facebook is my face to the world. And for the last 3 years, I've been doing a half-hour, 45-minute show 7 days a week. at starting at 10 o'clock, but it stays on my page forever. That's my blog, I guess. And every day, toward the end of the day, someone also posts it on YouTube forever. So if you just search Lon Milo DuQuette in the last 24 hours, you'll see all sorts of shit that I've done in the last 24 hours. And where I'm going to be, the pandemic, like I mentioned, has put a stop to my international travel. And now I'm supposed to go to Cleveland in November because I'm going to speak at the Buckland Museum of Magic and Witchcraft because I've donated my own magical pantacle there, and they've got it on display in a nice case. I'm going to talk about that, and I'll probably drop by at the local OTO body there. And that at the moment is the extent of my foreseeable travel plans. I've been doing a lot of online videos and workshops. Enochian is 4-part, I think, and the tarot is 3 or 4-part. And I've done the Magick of Tarot workshop series with my good friend Jason Louvre on his Magick Me program. If you look up Magick Me and DuQuette, you can find that. And I finished up this book here, which will be on the Tarot Architect, which will be out in May. And once it comes out, I'll probably beat the bushes next spring and summer. So I'll probably be appearing in every bookstore that'll allow me to ramble on for an hour or so. So watch this space, as they say.
Okay, well, I'm going to post links to all of that in the video description, along with a bunch of your books. I'll even include stuff like the Buckland Museum. So if anybody's trying to find out more information, find you on Facebook, I'll have all those links below. So, Lon, it is signature question time. I'm excited to ask you this question. How do you use sound or music in your personal magical practice?
Well, I mentioned the pitch pipe thing and that's a technical way, but I'm more of a songwriter than I am a musician. Okay, I play the guitar, but when it comes to recording, I in the recent past I've just gotten the best Hollywood studio people I can find to back me up. The music is my poetry. Now, although the songs may sound like simple love songs or goofy little ditties, they are in a sense the enchantments that that I most prefer. And so when I'm talking about let's see, I got like 2 reincarnation songs, okay, that they don't so much seem like reincarnation songs overtly. one is called "I Once Was the Hero of Megiddo." That's how I pronounce Megiddo. And another one is called Bernice. Now, I have every reason to believe, as much as anybody can estimate, at least influence of a previous incarnation, which is a very kind of recent one, where I had a pretty clear recollection of me probably being my own great uncle, which I think is a common thing. I think incarnations sometimes go in families. But I wrote a song called Bernice, and to a 1920s kind of thing about a college guy in the 1920s, wooing his girlfriend. So the music is highly, highly personal, even though it may seem like goofy little ditties, but they are my prayers, but they're prayers to myself, and they add a personal depth to my self identity that we can only describe as a magical asset. So
Is that song, is that up on somewhere where we can hear it streaming?
Oh,
Bernice?
everywhere.
Yeah? Okay. Perfect.
Yeah, everywhere. Hey, I've the don't tell the record label, but the easiest way to hear my songs and to play them for free is go to it's not a big thing anymore, but I've got all my stuff on it. It's called ReverbNation. Okay, go to Lon Milo DuQuette at ReverbNation, and you'll see all my music videos, all my, and then if you like it and you want to support that in any way, then you can Google around and find the CD Baby or the what's the other one? Bandcamp, or you can find a way to give me a little money for it too. But just to shop around, hear my whole thing, even the old Charlie D and Milo days from the 1970s, my old Epic Records things, it's on there too. So.
Okay, great. Well, I'll post that link in the video description as well, so that we can all go listen to some of your jams after this interview. So, Lon, I know we've kind of hit our time. I really, really appreciate you coming on and sharing all these things with me today. I'll go ahead and stop the recording now. So I appreciate you. Thank you.
Bye.
Another great interview and another big M3 thank you to Lon Milo DuQuette for taking the time to be with me on the show today. Now, when Lon asks you to do something, you gotta do it. And he asked me to read Son of Chicken Qabalah, so I got a copy. See? It's on my Kindle. He asked you to go and listen to his music, so I've linked a few songs below, including the one he mentioned, and When You Fall in Love, one of my personal favorites. But you should also grab a copy of his books, so I've linked those in the video description below as well. Go and check them out. And while you're clicking around down there, please make sure you hit the like and subscribe button here on YouTube or from whatever platform you're currently watching from. You can also follow me on social media like Facebook or Instagram at Eric Arcadian, or check out my website, ericarcadian.com. But if you really want to help support me making more content in the future, please go check out my Patreon page. You can join for free, or for just a few dollars, you can get access to some exclusive, cool content. Thanks for watching, everybody, and remember, There's always a way to make music. Until next time.